Rehabbing Part 9, dealing with contractors. This is another big issue people seem to have with rehabs is dealing with contractors. Yes, this can be a problem, but once you learn it and learn how to manage these guys, it's really not that big of a deal. Yes, it is something you always have to do to get your projects done and kind of always be on top of this, but it's not that big of a deal once you develop your team. So the first thing people ask me is, how do I find these contractors? Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, what I want to mention is don't ever hire a GC, because really this is something you need to be doing. This is part of your business. And in rehabs, there's typically not enough room to hire a GC. You can do it, but again, you're probably going to be splitting the cost with the GC or close to it. And also the GCs typically don't have your best interest at heart. They've got other projects, they got a lot going on, and your project is just one of the many. If you're the GC, you're involved with your own project and your heart and soul is in there and you want to get this thing done every day and you're pushing on it instead of just letting someone else manage it. Now, the best way to find contractors is really word of mouth. So either go to other job sites that you've seen near your project or just start talking to people. Once you find a good plumber, for example, then you'll be able to find a good electrician and a good HVAC guy and a good framer, etc., etc. These guys tend to all know each other. They've worked on job sites together, and the good ones will know the good ones. So once you find a good contractor, stick with that person and then let them refer you to other people. And even if they don't know everybody you need, typically the people they refer you to then will know other people who can get stuff done. That's typically how we find all our contractors. We don't do internet searches. We don't go out and put ads out. We don't use Angie's List, none of that kind of stuff. You want to find these guys who are used to working with builders, developers, contractors, and rehabbers just like yourself. Because what you need is you need guys who do quality, good work, and they charge you a reasonable, decent price. If you start going with a lot of companies that do this, they have a big markup in there and you're not going to make money in your rehab. So you usually want smaller independent guys who do this work and they do it well at a very reasonable price. The trades are a perfect example. When most people think of plumbers, electricians, and HVAC, they think of companies, right? You've heard their advertisement on the TV, the radio, everywhere in your local city. But those type of companies typically will charge a premium, and they're not going to be the right type of company to go with. You want a guy who does his own work, maybe has a small crew, and he can come in, get the job done, be in and out, and that's the type of person you want to work with. The next big question I get is how to manage them. A lot of people think, oh, you got to be at the job site every single day and you have to surprise them and that kind of stuff. As much as we like to call them teenagers, and they are in a lot of ways, they're still adults and they need to be able to get the job done. That's why I like subcontracting work out. I don't like to have these guys on my payroll, because basically I say, here's the price to get this work done. I'll give you maybe a small upfront deposit, but after that, once the work is complete, then you'll get paid. So their incentive is to get the work done. If you pay them hourly, their incentive is to work the most hours, not get the job done. I remember when I first started, I was actually running a painting and remodeling company. We had this big problem of when we paid guys hourly, the work just never got done. They just wanted to keep milking the hours. So really what you want to do is subcontract this work out. Again, let's use a plumber, for example. They come in, they give you a price and all the work that you need done in your rehab. You agree on a price, you agree on a payment schedule, and on your end, just make sure you pay them on a timely fashion. That's most important to them. On their end, they've had plenty of people who either didn't pay them or took way, way too long to pay them. So as long as you pay them and you hold up your end of the agreement, you should expect them to hold up their end of the agreement. And look, if they don't do the work or they do crappy work or it takes them way longer, just don't use them again. Just find somebody else. Currently, we have a great group of subcontractors we work with in every area, but yeah, some of them are just not that great and we're always looking for better guys. So we're always looking to improve. Some guys do great work, then they fall off for some reason, so you need to replace them. As you grow, you might need more and more contractors, so you may need 2 or 3 good electricians, not just one. So there's all kinds of things. This is very dynamic. It always changes, but the concepts are the same. Basically, you need to use word of mouth to find these guys, and you really need to manage them by saying, look, just get the work done. If you get it done, you're going to get paid, and if you don't, you're not, and I'm going to replace you, that kind of thing. I have a very low tolerance for replacing contractors. If they screw up the job, they do something wrong, they're off the job. We'll figure out how, what's owed to them and pay them whatever's owed, but we'll never be using them again. So this is how you deal with contractors. It's not about surprise inspections, about calling them every day, that type of thing. Yeah, you need to be on the job site pretty much every day. You need to visit it, maybe every other day, but expect them to get the work done. That's your expectation of them, and they should hold up their end of the bargain, and then of course you hold up your end of the bargain. The last thing I want to talk about in this section is actually the types of rehab. This is going to dictate the type of contractors you get. The very first type of rehab is what I call rehab in place, where you're not adding square footage, you're really not doing much to the structural elements of the house. You might be changing the siding, the drywall, removing a non-load bearing wall, changing out kitchens, bathrooms, things like that. That's fine. That's still considered a light rehab. Certainly paint, carpet, those type of things. That's the type of rehab you start with because it's the least complicated. The second type of rehab that I grew into was where we added square footage, because remember, adding square footage is a way to really skyrocket the value of a property. If you have, let's say, a 2,000 square foot house and you can add 1,000 square feet, you've increased the square footage by 50%. That house is a lot larger, more livable, more spaces, more rooms, things like that. And that's much more attractive to the end buyer. This gets more complicated because you're probably gonna need an architect, permits, things like that. And also the type of contractors you need are probably gonna change. You may need a concrete guy to pour the slab. You'll need a framing guy to frame it up. A lot of these people you don't need when you first start, but when you take on this next level of rehabs, you're gonna need these different contractors. If you've done a bunch of rehabs in the first group, then you'll have that experience and you can easily take on the second group. And that's exactly what I did. My first number of rehabs were all the first type, and then I realized, wow, I had a perfect house where if I just added some square footage, if I just added a family room here, the value went way up. I'm like, let's do that. I found an architect, we used our current subs, and we added a few more, and we got it done. And of course, the house sold for a much bigger number than it would have otherwise. Now, the third type of rehabs, which is what I've done as well now, are where we basically take a house and you're just buying it for the land value, completely scrape the lot, and you start from scratch. The house that I'm filming this in right now is an example of that. There used to be an old house here. We completely got rid of it and built this brand new house starting from scratch. That's more complicated. Now you're a new home builder. I've done a number of these now, but that's your third type of rehab. Again, typically you can make more money in this situation as well. But remember, this is a lot more complicated. Again, you have a different group of contractors you're working with. There's plans, permits. You may need models of your homes, things like that. So again, the complexity increases, but you can make more money per project. So to me, it makes sense to keep growing and doing bigger and bigger rehabs, but again, it's up to you. You can make an entire career with just staying in group one and just doing rehabs in the current footprint and not changing anything structural with the project. Those are your three types of rehabs, and the types of contractors you're going to need tend to differ as you get bigger and bigger. Remember, dealing with contractors can be a pain in, but it's really not the most difficult thing in this business. You just have to have a good management system, learn how to deal with these guys, be fair to them, and have expectations of them to do the work and get it done properly and in a timely fashion. As always, hit the subscribe button, make sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of the important videos in this 10-part series on rehabbing.